Thought you'd left the territory, Mr. Grant. Degan looked down at Sheriff Ross, smiling up at him. He leaned forward to soothe his horse before it reared up. The Palomino didn't like strangers standing so close to it. Gunshots it didn't mind. Strangers it did. I'm leaving today. Just making sure no shots get fired in the church. Don't need to worry about that. The feud ended last week, soon as the happy couple agreed to get hitched. So you're coming to the wedding? Degan looked at the church at the end of the street. The two families getting joined today, the Callahans and the Warrens, were already inside it. People from town were still heading toward it to witness the happy event, and steering clear of Degan, who was sitting on his horse in the middle of the street. As much as he might like to do something as normal as attend a wedding, he knew what his presence would do. And he'd already said his goodbyes. So he shook his head at the sheriff. No need for anyone to be nervous on a day like this. Ross chuckled. I think folks here in Nashart know you well enough by now. That's the trouble. They know me. Ross got a little red in the face. It was odd for a sheriff to treat Degan so affably. Usually, as soon as a sheriff learned who he was, the sheriff asked him to get out of his town. Ross hadn't done that, likely out of respect for Zachary Callahan, who had hired Degan to keep the peace until Zachary's son's wedding. Of course, the wedding wasn't guaranteed to happen. When the Warren bride had been raised in the East in the lap of luxury and was to marry Hunter Callahan, a cowboy born and bred here in Nashart, Montana, whom she'd never met. And Tiffany Warren had definitely tried to get out of the arranged marriage. At the Callahan Ranch, she'd even pretended to be a housekeeper so she could find a way to end the feud between the two families without sacrificing herself on the altar. Degan had liked Tiffany from the start, because she reminded him of home, a home he was never going back to. But he'd guessed she wasn't really a housekeeper. She'd tried so hard not to be prim and proper, but she just couldn't help it. The elegant and sophisticated real Tiffany constantly slipped out, although she'd made him question his intuition when she'd befriended a baby pig and made him her pet. That had really thrown him off. It had tickled the hell out of Hunter, too. No wonder Hunter had fallen in love with his future wife before he knew who she really was.